Every morning the world starts quietly, one soft light at a time. Homes flicker awake, shops open. People take those first small steps into a brand new day. And in all of that ordinary movement, there's something kind of extraordinary. A moment worth noticing, a spark you feel before you even name it. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's small, but kindness shows up right on time. And every morning we choose to show up with you so we can look for that spark together.
Good morning. I'm Matt Roof, the Uncommon Kindness Guy, and this is Kindness Rising. Let's rise together.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kindness Rising, your morning dose of hope, humanity, and heart. And today we close our series about James Allen. I forgot my book, but it's As a Man Thinketh. That's the book that I'm talking about today. Part one, that was about thought architecture. Part two was about repetition and how that impacts identity. And today we're talking about cultivation, tending the soil we grow in and the soil we share. James Allen, he loved the garden metaphor because gardens are relational. Nothing grows alone. Growth isn't just personal, it's the bounty that we share with the world.
This is Kindness Rising.
Good morning again, and welcome to Kindness Rising. I'm Matt Roof, the Uncommon Kindness Guy, and I come here every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, to get you up with a little hope, humanity, and heart on the Mornings in the Lab network. We're building a community here at Kindness Rising. Get involved in the comments. Tell us where you're coming from, what you're up to these days. How are you spreading kindness and joy and rising above the noise every day? Every day. That's what we do here on Kindness Rising. And we're talking about James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, famous work of literature. Mike Sullivan, good morning, and welcome in from San Francisco. Definitely check it out. His works are out there. I keep reading it over and over again. It's a short book actually, but it's just full of nuggets of thought provoking and life changing advice system, whatever you want to call it. And stick around, Sully, because I'm going to be talking about San Francisco in just a little bit later and what's going on out there in terms of the kindness that the city is sharing with families. So anyway, James Allen, he uses the garden metaphor throughout the book, and it really lands this idea that thoughts are seeds, habits, that's your watering of those seeds. Your character is the growth, and your influence is the harvest. And here's the surprising part. Allen didn't say that cultivating, no, it was all about inner thoughts, right? The way we think about ourselves. Good morning, Mother Roseanne Roof. I am glad to see you here just as you show up every day. And we're still continuing our conversation about James Allen and the idea that cultivation is not a solitary act. We all have our own gardens that we tend, but those gardens, they create the ecosystem, the soil, the insects, the neighborhood, what's in the air. All of that together creates our garden, and then our collective gardens create our environment. Our identity works the same way. We don't just become who we are, we affect who others are becoming by what we do. That's what I do by coming here live every day. I hope having influence in that way by planting my seeds in my garden right here, and then sharing my harvest with you all. Absolutely. Because Alan believed that kindness shows up not just in what we do individually, but what we nourish collectively as a group, all of our individual gardens. All right. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I hope everybody's having a just glorious day today, getting up and thinking about the way we're going to plant seeds today, cultivating our gardens. Absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending time here with me, Mike Sullivan, Roseanne Roof, all the rest of you that are out there. Come on over and join in the chat. Join in the chat. All right. So we always talk about a little something here on Kindness Rising, an organization that we are leaning into, and I am going to do that right now. I talked about them yesterday, but I'm going to keep talking about them because the more I learn about this organization, the more I realize that their mission is so very life-changing, culture-changing. I hope you'll consider joining them. I have signed up for their free daily dose of kindness emails, and you'll get little tips and things like this that reinforce all the things that we talk about here on Kindness Rising. Friendship Today's advice from Random Acts of Kindness, their little daily dose of kindness. Friendship is not about longevity. It's about the people who showed up and stayed during the rough times. I think that's a pretty good little thought-provoking. I don't know if I can zoom in on it. Hey, I'm learning as I go here too. There you go. I think that is a really good piece of advice, not necessarily connected to everything that we're talking about here, but I think about some of the friends who have stuck with me through rough times, who maybe have come in and out of our lives, but through rough times, they help you grow and they cultivate and they show up when we need them. I believe the universe gives us people when we need them. So I think absolutely. I see it all the time. I had an amazing conversation yesterday with someone, a woman who is, we connected randomly through LinkedIn through a common connection in Texas, and both realized we're here in Binghamton working on the same mission in life, and that is pretty cool. Her name is Dawn Solis, and I'll be talking more about Dawn perhaps in the future and her mission, her business, and her life's work related to neurodiversity. Um, and yeah, she's amazing. So we'll be featuring maybe some of Dawn's work coming up in the future. And she's got a great story. She's a great storyteller. She's got a podcast. Crab Punch, welcome. Hee hee ha ha. You having fun? I'm laughing right along with you, Crab Punch. I am glad you're here. Absolutely. And we were talking about kindness, and we're talking about a story that happened recently. Or actually, you know what? I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna call an audible. Neurodiversity sounds super interesting. Yes, Dawn is a super interesting person. I was unprepared to talk about her today. Was planning to do it tomorrow, but okay. So we'll call it a tease. I'm teasing Dawn Solis and her work in neurodiversity and neuro awesomeness, I think is what she calls it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. So if it's something of interest, Sully, come on back. We are definitely going to be here at 7:30 tomorrow morning. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Again, in my world, as I'm thinking about kindness and picking up on things, sometimes things fall into my lap, videos and things. And I want to share this. I want to share a conversation that happened. I think I actually talked about this conversation before, but this is a further continuance of the dialogue that happened between Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek, the guy who's he's out there, pretty prolific personal improvement person, corporate improvement with his starts with why uh, idea, and then Trevor Noah, of course, who is of the Daily Show fame, having a conversation. And I thought this was a pretty profound and interesting idea that Trevor Noah talks about. So, if I can get my act together well enough, um, I am going to present a snippet from that conversation. And Trevor Noah having his dialogue about the word kind.
The origin of kind, I find very interesting in English because I think it gives us an insight into what might be missing in today's world. And it's what makes it complex. Humankind, the same kind, kindred, my kin. That's literally where it comes from in English. We are the same kind. You trace the word back, and the word kind came from saying you are me and I am you. That's where it came from. And so when we are saying we are being kind to one another in English, the origin of it meant I'm seeing you as me, and I'm believing that you are seeing me as you, right?
So that, I think, is a pretty profound and interesting thought. We say the word kind, but do we really understand that root and what it is saying? I see something in you that is also in me. That's the root of it. That is the root of it. That is humanity. That is kindness. And in a world that spends so much time defining differences, I think this is good news that kindness is rooted in sameness and in belonging and in shared humanity. You don't have to necessarily agree with someone to recognize their kinship. You just have to acknowledge that they're in the same story with you. Wouldn't life be wonderful if some more people thought of it that way? That way. We are of one kind, and that is where kindness begins. I think it's pretty profound. It definitely struck me. I'm wondering how you guys feel about it. Roseanne had me thinking about the journey, that time between the planting of the seed and the retrieving the harvest. It's the journey. Absolutely, Mom. That's the repetition and the cultivation and the watering of the garden, and the messy middle is another analogy that's often used, right? About growth. I'm sorry, I blanked out on the word growth for a second because I was thinking about 5 other things while I'm trying to speak at the same time, because that's what we do. That's what we do. Welcome to Kindness Rising. I'm glad you've chosen to spend your time here with me this morning. I'm Matt Roof. I come here on the Mornings in the Lab Network every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. to talk about concepts like kindness, like growth, like balance, curiosity, leaning into things, seeing things in the world through the lens of perspective, and highlighting good work. That's the mission. The mission is multiplying kindness and unlocking growth for good people who are doing good work. That is the mission of Kindness Rising, as part of the Mornings in the Lab Network, whose mission is to help people get up and get after it every day on the Mornings in the Lab Network with us, starting your day with ideas like kindness, like joy when Cheryl Raphael Whitaker joins the network, like motivation, morning motivation, and interesting, stimulating conversation at the Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends. And we're going to be adding more shows. I just heard yesterday we're adding another show. The Jason Hewlett Show is coming to the Mornings in the Lab network. I have some more learning to do about Jason Hewlett, but certainly have faith that he too is ready to take on the challenge of going live. And if you want to take on the challenge of going live and are interested, like Jason, like Cheryl, like myself, like Keith, come on and join us on Mornings in the Lab network. We'll help you through it. We'll definitely help you get started so that you can share your message to the world live on a show. It doesn't have to be daily. It can be weekly. I wouldn't recommend doing it less than weekly if you really want to be present for people, but weekly is a thing that you can do. Absolutely. All right. So we are going to change gears yet once again. Talk about another story that was in the news yesterday. It was sort of, oh boy. Sorry, failed to turn off my phone. Ironically, coincidentally, because things happen live. Is Dawn Solis texting me right now, talking about the work that she's doing, and I'll be sharing more about things like her Substack and the work that she's doing tomorrow. Interesting that should happen right now. That's what happens when you connect with people live. We are going to switch gears a little bit. Again, like I said, Sully, I promised I teased a story coming out of San Francisco that's been trending this morning. I think it's a little bit controversial, I guess, in that community. Sully, I'm bringing this because I'm hoping that you're familiar with it and maybe have some local insights to share. Actually, I thought very specifically of you while I was doing this. Major announcement coming out of San Francisco. We all know, and Sully can probably share that with us, how expensive the world is, and San Francisco is known as being one of the most expensive, highest cost of living city in the world, let alone the United States. But they're sending out a lifeline to families under what they're calling the Family Opportunity Agenda. Families of four earning less than $230,000 a year can now access free childcare for children under 5 at the participating providers across the city. And by the fall, as things work out, additional people will become eligible for a 50% subsidy on their care. I guess childcare costs are super high in San Francisco. Cost of living is high. I don't know. I haven't done enough research, but what I see in other articles and other coverage of the story is that there are costs ranging anywhere potentially from $15,000 to $30,000 a year per child. $30,000 a year per child. Wow. That's insane. That's crazy to me, I think, but it's mind-boggling. But it's certainly kindness in action to reduce the financial strain on parents' abilities to work and giving young children access to learning environments. I'm hopeful that those learning environments are positive and engaging, and it will help families to have some stability, help families that will mean more two-income families, hopefully, and strengthen the foundation of those children's growth. At the same time, there's the other side of the argument, right? The broader policy conversation, and I'm looking at my notes here and trying to remember some of the other things. So there's questions, there's ethical questions. There's ethical questions about equity, about financial plannings, and how they serve communities without unintended consequences, to really make sure they think about it. And the question of, what is government's responsibility to community? But I certainly would much rather see my tax dollars or my work, my money go to programs like this myself. supported by us all than some of the places where it's going, sowing other things that we don't. I would prefer not to go to. That's just the reality of the world we're living in, and where those dollars get shifted and the way we use those dollars. And I'm talking between the lines a little bit here, but I would much rather see families being supported than torn from their homes, and figure that out in a reasonable way and in a lawful way. So that's where I'm going with that ultimately. And the reality that you can have conversations not in anger and not in rhetoric, but talking about the real impacts and the trade-offs of policies. And that's what we used to do in this country, and we don't do it anymore. It's just division, and you versus me, and the haves and the have-nots, and that's where we are today as a society. I'm hoping that at some point that vibe will change altogether, that there are people in generations coming up that are saying, this is not the way. Yep. So, but doing the research, absolutely doing the research, having the dialogue about where those funds go, knowing that sure, we'd probably like to fund a lot of things that we can't, and what is our responsibility to fund, and how do we support it? And it's all woven together. The federally legal cannabis conversation, Sully. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, we're in an interesting place in the cannabis industry, with states legalizing and federal still classifying it. It has an amazing and incredible and impactful impact on the business. There's so much we could talk about that, and I know talked about other industries too. If that's something you guys want to talk about, is that industry, we can put our kindness rising spin on it. But for me, yes, I see exactly what you're talking about in terms of the federal tax dollars. And then you get into the questions of, well, the unknown in terms of the impacts of cannabis on the people. Whatever. Interesting. We're talking about cultivation. I guess that's part of it. Absolutely. Cultivating kindness, cultivating cannabis. The tax on it would pay for these great. I think Colorado is the prime example of that, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, from what I see in terms of what Colorado is using the tax dollars for. New York State, do you know what New York State uses its lottery for? It uses it for education, right? So the question is, we're using lottery, which you could argue has its moral, its ethical, and its problems related to gambling and other and equity and that kind of thing. But the funds go to education. So vice supporting development, I don't know, depending on what you consider to be a vice, and it's an interesting conversation for sure. Maybe someday we can actually have a dialogue about it. That would be cool. All right. Never know what we're going to be talking about here on Kindness Rising. Oh, I forgot. Our buddies have been waiting for us in the wings, cultivating their own little bits. Let's see.
I've been cultivating positive vibes.
Any visible crops?
It's early in the season.
Try watering something.
Okay. That was the best I could do for today, but here's the point. The point is that Rusty is harvesting his positive vibes. That's great, but try watering something, and that's the move from thought to action, right? All this thought, James Allen talked about it. The thoughts are important. We're here talking about thought, and we want to make sure that our thoughts are consistent and our thoughts create the circumstances in the environment. But without action, it's sort of meaningless, right? So water your plants, water your seed. You can plant your seed of thought, but water that seed by acting in alignment with it. Absolutely. Let's pull the thread and close out the James Allen series. For now, I'm sure I'll be bringing in the concepts of As a Man Thinketh for other episodes too. But remember, in part 1 the other day, 2 days ago, we talked about thoughts as seed. It all begins inside, in our imagination, in our perspective, in our beliefs about ourselves and things that we need to question, and the thoughts that we carry consciously or unconsciously, that lead us to make actions and decisions that we need to question. And I talked about that in relation to my 30 plus year career, and realizing that kindness is part of who I am, and it can be done regardless of the industry that I work in. In part 2, we talked about repetition. Repetition is the watering. What Rusty and Reggie are up to right now. Keep watering it, keep going, keep repeating it. Remember, your thoughts brought you to where you are. Your thoughts can rebuild you. So keep watering those thoughts, what you want to do, act on them, act in alignment with those thoughts, and you will create the circumstances. Identity, your identity, it comes from intentional practice. And today we talked about identity growing into cultivation, and how when we plant our garden, cultivate our garden, and somebody else cultivates their garden, our gardens create the ecosystem, the environment that we want to live in. And what we grow eventually affects all of the ecosystem around us, our family, our community, and our culture. So that is the story of James Allen. That is As a Man Thinketh. Maybe you'll pick up the book and check it out. We talked about Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek reminding us to recognize that kindness comes from the idea that we are all kin. I see something in you that is also in me. Allen would call that interdependence, right? The garden doesn't sit at the end and it's not by itself. It shapes the soil, the insects, the air, and the neighborhood. And then we also looked at San Francisco's child care initiative. Regardless of your policy opinions or how to fund it, hopefully you can see the underlying idea. Supporting families isn't kindness to individuals, it's kindness to the ecosystem and its cultivation. So remember this: thoughts become identity, identity becomes influence, influence becomes culture, and culture becomes your garden. Kindness isn't just what we do, it's who we are becoming together, just like we do here on Kindness Rising, just like they do over on Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends. And so just hope you have a wonderful day. As you head out into your day, remember that kindness is what kinship feels like when it's in action. See you tomorrow. Until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.
Okay, Matt, we got the memo about the Kindness Rising promo, but what exactly are we promising people?
And is there craft services? Hey, I need snacks too.
Gentlemen, focus. Kindness Rising multiplies kindness, and helps people get up on the right side of the bed.
So wait, we're not doing another angry headline show.
Exactly. We rise above the negative, divisive noise.
Translation, less rage bait, more high fives for humanity. And this is live, like actually live.
Yep. We go live on YouTube and LinkedIn, 7:30 a.m. Eastern every weekday.
Wait, if it's live, what if I forget my lines?
Then you improvise.
Okay, so our tagline is basically wake up, tune in, and start your day with kindness.
Exactly. Kindness rising, good vibes, practical tips, and a reason to get up on the right side of the bed.
You heard the boss. Subscribe now before he makes us do a TikTok dance.
Kindness rising. Wake up, tune in, and let's make some good noise.